Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to LinkedIn Tuesday. It's June 3rd, 2025. We're very glad you're with us this afternoon. Please note this event is being recorded. It will be on the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. For everybody who's on Zoom this afternoon, we're welcome to enter your contact information into the chat window. Let us know your name, tell us the position you're looking for, companies that you'd like to have help with, put in your LinkedIn address, your email address, and connect with everybody else who's on the call today. It's a great way to expand your connections, and you never know who you will be able to help in the future. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched careerusa.org to help those outside the Dallas area. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon, or I have copies with me all the time in person. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. I'll tell you about our upcoming program this Friday at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team, also known as the PIT crew. Don't wait and have your real interview to be your practice. Go and join the practice interview team at dallaspitcrew.com. We have 4 outstanding speakers who talk about LinkedIn. They rotate through on a monthly basis. Today, our speaker is Locke Alderson. He's a career consultant. He was a recruiter for many, many years, and he's going to talk about how to use LinkedIn for job hunting, strategies that get results. Locke, thank you for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you, Jeff, for that glowing introduction. I'll try and share my screen. Okay. Did that come up, Jeff?
Yes, it is.
Well, let me try and enlarge the screen size there. I'll shrink that down. Well, that's my bio up there on the screen for those of you who are interested and would like a copy of the presentation today. There is some material in the presentation that I'm not going to cover. The last half, it's about networking and how to find jobs with companies. Again, that's another part of the presentation, but I just have to cut it short to fit it in the time so we can get through that. And people have asked me, and I'm sure I've asked Jeff, why do you do this? You know, you're not getting paid to do it. And that's true. I says, I'm a volunteer like Jeff. Well, one of the reasons is people have given back to me over the years. And so I want to give back to people and help me with my expertise and experience. And then one of the times that I was laid off in California, before I came to Texas, I had been laid off and had been given notice and interviewed with 19 companies. Yes, 19 actual interviews. And of those 19, 16 of them said no. And 2 of them said, well, we'll get back to you. One of them said, yes, we'd like to hire you. Brought me to Texas for interviews and actually made me an offer. And I moved to Texas, to Carrollton. At that time, I had a wife who was a stay-at-home mom with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And 8 months later, I was laid off again. And one of those times, one of the things that you come to deal with is, how do I deal with that roller coaster of emotions? So one of the ways that you deal with this is with scripture verses. I know one of the ones that I have is to I'm not going to start that on that right. Okay. I'll start it from the beginning. There we go. But scripture verses have helped me through the years on that. I try and get into the word at least once a day. This is a verse from the Old Testament. Blessed be the Lord, day after day, he bears our burden, he cares for us. So one of the questions that you ask with LinkedIn or with anybody is, why are you using LinkedIn? Again, if your goal is to be found on LinkedIn by a recruiter or hiring manager, does a search for you reveal, what does it reveal about your background? Your background getting found. Let's talk a little bit more about LinkedIn. Again, worldwide, there are about 1 million users on LinkedIn. It started out as a tool for salesmen to do networking, market sales and marketing people to do networking. Recruiters quickly found it, and because people were posting personal information about people's work experience, they used it as a recruiting tool. And now it's one of the most important recruiting tools, or most important tools in a recruiter's toolbox. But basically, 95% of the recruiters in the US are using or aware of LinkedIn to find and source candidates. So it's easy to do that. Again, one of the comments about LinkedIn from a job hunter, and I can attest to this, having counseled people about their LinkedIn profiles and had them update their profiles and actually land jobs. One of the comments was, LinkedIn has been an irreplaceable tool in my job search. The ability to show employers the exact experience and skills that I have on my profile is what ultimately helped me land the job, because LinkedIn is a little bit more, has a little bit more information that you can show than on your resume. So what do we want to talk about today using job hunting for LinkedIn? Using LinkedIn. Well, we're going to talk about your profile, the headline and open to work sections, your dashboard, which some of you may not be using, your about sections, which used to be your summary, your professional work experience area, your skills and endorsements. Those are the things that recruiters actually are going to look at when they do searches. And how do you go about optimizing your profile? And then taking a look at doing recruiter searches. How do they actually search on LinkedIn? Having been a recruiter for 41 years and worked with those in job and career transition since 2001, there are some techniques that can help you to get found. Some of the tricks of the trade the recruiters actually use. And then finding jobs, searching for jobs for you, some job alerts and filters. And I've added a couple of new slides today, or one new slide today, that may be helpful to find jobs in another area, and some homework for things that you can do. So I'll ask you the question, does your LinkedIn profile attract hiring managers and recruiters? Well, that's a question that you should be asking yourself. Are you getting results? Are people contacting you? Are they looking at your profile? Those are the things that you want to ask yourself, because first impressions are vitally important. And that's why we want to talk about your profile. Okay, it all starts with your profile. So take a look at this. Is a picture of mine. It's an older version of mine. And notice on one thing on this, the open to work, I've got open to work open, but it's only open to recruiters. And I want to talk about that in a minute. But the things that recruiters or people see and look at in 6 to 10 seconds. The things that are important are your background or banner photo, your headshot that you have, your name, and do use your name that you want to be called by. My legal name is John Locke Alderson Jr. I actually go by Locke by middle name. My son is John, my dad was John. So to differentiate them, go by middle name. Make it easy for that recruiter or hiring manager when they contact you by a phone or by email. Let them know how they should reach out to you and talk to you. Okay. The headshot is there. Those are the things to think about. And if your headline, that's right there, is the only thing that recruiters see about you, is it a lasting impression? Does it attract their attention and get the results that you want? Okay. Or does your profile look like an old rusty car because of neglect? Again, one of the things that somebody taught in a LinkedIn session that I attended about a year ago was that you need to be refreshing your LinkedIn profile just like you refresh your resume, probably on an average of at least once a week if you're job hunting, if not more frequently. So how long has it been since you've updated your profile? Those are questions that you need to ask yourself. And the reason I mention that is if you've ever done the grocery shopping for your family, like I do, one of the things when I go through the produce section, I look at the fruit and look at it and say, is it soft and squishy or is it nice and firm? So there's a freshness guarantee that's there. The other thing is when you look at milk, and there has the best used date by our bread. Those are the things that you want to look, or meat in the meat section. With one of those things. If it's past its prime, you're probably not going to select it. Same is kind of true with your profile. People are not going to select it. But looking back at your profile, you have 6 to 10 seconds to get my attention. What do you see? Well, I've got a decent banner photo, although my banner photo behind me today I've switched it out. And so this is another one that's there. There's again the open to work section. You notice that banner from 5 o'clock around to 8 o'clock. And here I've opened it up to all members of LinkedIn. Another option that you have. I've also got my headline. You've got about 220 characters to play with in your headline. And that's the kind of thing that people are going to want to. There's some other groups that you're a part of. I'm a graduate of Texas A&M. Yes, I'm an Aggie. I'm also a graduate of University of California at Berkeley. So those are some interesting things. But the open to work section allows you to list some other titles up there. So what are you trying to do when you talk about your profile? Well, here's some things that you need to be aware of. You want to use a professional headshot and a background or banner photo if you can. A headshot can be a selfie if you want, but it should not, you should be with a good background and shouldn't be any glare on your forehead if you're receding hairline or if you're reflection off your glasses like I have. The headline, use the job title of the position that you're applying for or titles. Again, if you don't use a headline, LinkedIn's going to add one for you, and it's going to choose the title of your last job in your employment section. Use the open to work section under your headline. You can list additional job titles that you want. You can also list some other things, and we'll look at that in a minute. Your about section, it used to be your summary. It's an overview of your career and should highlight your accomplishments and keywords. And if you're talking about your accomplishments, you're talking about the things that you've done and done well. And by implication, that's what you've done for your employers and what you can do for your future employers. Your contact information. I think it's vitally important that you have your contact information, your email address and your phone number on the first line of your about section. There are those who would say that they put it in their banner. If you look at Jeff's profile, he's got it in his banner photo, okay, which you can do with Canva. People also say they can be at the bottom of your about section. But if I'm looking for you and I'm not directly connected, and you haven't opened up your security settings so that I can look at your contact information. The only way I'm going to be able to get in touch with you is if you have your contact information at the top of your about section. Again, because that's the first thing that people see is only about 3 lines of your about section. The experience section or your employment barrier. If you have an unusual job title, just an aside, having been a recruiter for 41 years, if you have one of those unusual job titles like member of technical staff 3, and yes, I've worked for companies that use those kind of titles, you want to make it the generally accepted title out there when you're looking for a job and make that in parentheses. You want a description of your duties and the results. The results add credibility to your experience and use the keywords from your profession. Make sure that people know that you have some expertise in your area of proficiency. You want your skills or from your profession as well and endorsements, education awards and certification. Too many times I've seen the education somebody drops off as soon as they got their degree. Done to keep your skills current. And then recommendations. You should probably have at least a recommendation or 2, particularly for your most recent experience. I know over the years I've garnered about 35 different ones. I try and get ones from people that I do consulting with now as a career consultant. But those are the things that should be in your profile, because the sum of those values that are there are what add up to when a search is done. If you have a complete profile in all the categories, it's going to add up that you're going to be one of the top candidates in a search is done. So what does your head up? Well, another verse of scripture that I like is from Jeremiah 29:11. And that's I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope. I know when I've been on that down roller coaster, verses like that have offered encouragement. So what does your headline, does it really tell who you are? Does it identify what you do? And is it a grabber that people remember? So if you walk up to somebody and say, and they ask you to tell you who you are, what do you tell them? Well, I'm a retired recruiter who spent 23 years in working with those in job and career transition. That's kind of my background in a nutshell. So let's take a look at some sample headlines. I've kind of limited these to short statements because your headline can actually be about 220 characters long. Nothing wrong with the first 3 up there, that they're unemployed, retired, or seeking a new opportunity. The unemployed in particular doesn't tell much about you and is not the most positive foot to put it forward. Likewise, retired. How long have you been retired? Well, actually, I retired from Oracle Corporation in 2010, but I've kind of stayed busy with working with those in job and career transition, both as a full-time consultant and as a volunteer since 2001. VP of Finance, again, formally puts a limit on that. So what do you want to tell about that? The next one, experience design, digital design engineer seeking new opportunity. More descriptive, gives your reader more to make a judgment on, do they want to click through and look further. Social media strategist, content manager, seeking new opportunity in print and digital media, has experience with print and digital media. public relations, marketing, and corporate communications. Again, as a recruiter, you learn to decipher what's there in the acronyms that are purchased there. Supply chain, procurement of professional, purchasing. Again, short and to the point, but again, if somebody's looking for somebody with a background in those three areas, it's something they're going to click through to. Likewise, accountant, more descriptive. So those are just some of the things that you can look at, but there are some ways that you can improve your headline. This is a chart that I picked up again from somebody else's presentation. You can add adjectives to your adjective to describe, and you can add examples at the end of it, make it more meaningful. Let's take a look at some of those. This is my profile, an older version of it. You notice it's there. This down here at the bottom, headlinesshare-throughs.com. You can test your headline. Just copy it in and paste it in there, and it will give you a rating. And I know when I first did it, I had an overall rating of 55, an engagement rating of 70, and then for 55 for impression. Those went up when I changed it to 78% for engagement, 72% for overall impression, and impression was 76. This is what it looked like when I changed it. Okay, I've used some of those adjectives to describe what I've done. And you can check that out. And if you send for the slide deck, just send me an email to lockealderson@gmail.com. I'll send you this whole deck, and you can have that URL that's in there. Here's some more descriptive headlines. Accountant, senior accountant, increasing productivity in highly regulated industries like telecommunications or utilities. Product manager, program manager, specializing in international business and aerospace. Again, narrows the individual down. Because if I do a search in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for product manager or program manager, I'm probably going to get about 40,000 hits on LinkedIn search. Director of customer relations. Again, IT project manager. Because sometimes the techies don't really speak with the customer very well. Well, those are just some additional ways. You can add some additional ones. I'm sorry about the internet being unstable. We'll try and hopefully come through, but systems analyst using digital indices, you can see how adding additional information kind of qualifies who you are. Another verse of scripture that I like is, you will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. Trust in the Lord forever. For the Lord himself is the rock eternal. So, okay, one of the questions that people have asked is, why should I use Open to Work? I notice I've got the banner there. It does allow you to add an additional five job titles and add some specific locations. Let's take a look at the input screen for that. Notice I put executive recruiter, professional recruiter. I started with career, and notice the options, the artificial intelligence, if you will, in the drop-down list that LinkedIn does. If you try and add an additional title that's not on LinkedIn's list, it won't let you add that. But it does also indicate that you can want your desire to work on-site, hybrid, or remote. And this is where the creations or have a single location. I know I'm in a group with a candidate from Austin, and she's open to relocation anywhere in the country. Several candidates like that, so indicate some of those areas that you're open to relocation to. And are you actively looking, or are you just kicking tires, casually browsing? So those are the things that are available when people look at your open to work section. Another area that people may not be aware of to look at is your analytics section on your homepage. You go to your homepage and look at your analytics. Notice on this particular screenshot, I've had 255 post impressions in the last week. Again, that's some time ago. I've got about 6,500 followers now and 60 appearances and searches in the past week. Okay, so that indicates how successful is your profile? Is it getting attention? Are you using the featured section to display examples of your work, your profile, or other things like that? This is just an updated version. These to show the presentations that I've done over the couple of years. I've actually got 7 or 8 here listed, but you could have a portfolio. If you're like my son, he is a motion graphics designer. He's got a portfolio of his work. If you're in advertising, you've got that portfolio of projects that you've worked on. Those are the kind of things that you've done. Jeff might include something like his book in this section. Or if you've got blogs talking about things, you have some expertise in that area, so you might want to include there. You can include your resume, although the caveat about including your resume there is it's a resume, unless it's a very general resume, it may not apply for the jobs that you're looking for. Because jobs change, you may have multiple jobs that you will consider. So that's a way that you can add to it and give information about yourself. Moving on to the About section, which is really your summary. Okay, this is one that I particularly like, and notice that it's got the contact information on the first line. It's a little bit longer than I normally like or recommend. You know, usually you want to have 3, 4, 5 lines and then a break and some kind of a page break or line break so that you can have that or some other areas of expertise that you've shown using asterisks or bullets. Again, this one is particularly good. It talks about somebody that's got a background in financial planning and analysis. Notice the acronym is spelled, well, the acronym is there and it's spelled out. And anytime that you want to use an acronym, at least spelled out the first time that you use it. Okay. But that's something about your background that you can add. Here are some other summaries. Again, one of the things that LinkedIn allows you to do is to use first person. Again, rather than third person, which is generally what's used in resumes. And this was in a narrative form as opposed to just a statement of fact. I'm a grateful partner with many world-class and award-winning companies in executive coaching and leadership development. And they give some experience in terms of their key competencies in the companies that they've worked with. The second example, I'm a strategic, creative, hands-on marketer with a passion for the opportunity technology creates for businesses. Again, those kind of statements in a resume, because they're soft statements, creative and strategic, without specific examples to go on to support them, tend to be viewed as fluff. But in here in your LinkedIn profile, you can add enough information just to give examples of what you've done in those areas. Moving on to your experience section. Okay, you want to have your job title, the company names and dates, your duties and responsibilities. Again, keep them short. If you notice on mine actually runs about 4 lines, I think. I'm counting correctly. And then I have some other things. Some bulleted areas of expertise may even not be something that you're included, but you do want to include that there. I've also included a statement that was issued by Amanda Gill, the Director of Recruiting for North America at Oracle Corporation when I left there. Okay. And that's the kind of thing that's kind of a reference check that somebody can do or a recommendation. But those are the things that get people's attention. Okay. When they find candidates. I mentioned accomplishments. These are 2 that I had when I was a recruiter at Oracle Corporation, selected as the recruiter of the quarter, meaning I was the top recruiter among 50 recruiters twice in 2 quarters out of the 17 quarters I was with Oracle Corporation. So those are the kinds of things that you can add that add credibility to your experience. What are some of the things that you can do about your profile? Well, if you are not working right now and you have an end date for your last job, you definitely want to add a new position showing that you're looking for work. Okay, you can add, there's now an area that you can add for your volunteer experience. Mine is incorporated in my actual profile because I wrote my profile long before they added, you could add a section on your experience, and you want to add projects to that. But let's take a look at a possible current position that you want to do. This is for somebody they're looking for a full-time position. And they're looking for a particular industry. He could put financial services. It could have been telecommunications. It could have been accounting, any of those kind of things, or insurance. But you can tell people about that. And then the location that you're looking in a given area. And this is helpful that you can say that you're looking outside, say, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. If that's the way you do it. If you have a strong background where you've done a number of projects, and having been a recruiter with Oracle and Siebel, a lot of the resumes that I viewed. Jeff, you want to field that question?
Chandra, what's your question?
What if you're looking for permanent jobs? Because I'm trying to look for permanent jobs without attracting temporary jobs.
Well, this kind of a job, if you're out of work and looking, you want to put what kind of job are you looking for? When you search for a job, that's the kind of job that you want to put on this title for a current position. Now, what kind of industry do you have experience in? I know I have experience in telecommunications. I have experience in semiconductors. I have computer services and with software, or just a few in government electronics, or some of the industries. But if I had to say, my most recent experience was with the software companies and consulting. And looking for consultants. So that's my area of expertise in recruiting. But I've done recruiting across the board. hopefully that answers your question. Okay. Well, if you had a lot of people that I talked to had backgrounds in when I was with Oracle Corporation, they were looking for positions going the wrong way. For projects, I'd get resumes that would have a page for every project that somebody had worked on. This just also shows you an example. For me, I was a program manager for the Dallas-Fort Worth Staffing Management Association, where I was responsible for bringing in the speakers for the program for each time that was there. But this is something that you can do to add show your expertise. What kind of project was it? How many people were on it? And again, it takes up a whole page that's separate from your employment or your about section. The next area that's very important for recruiters is your skills and endorsements. This section allows you to list the different skills that you have. Again, you can add those with a blank here what type of analysis. If you're trying to add a position, a title that's not recognized by LinkedIn, it won't let you add it. But there are a number of ones that you can just check on down here. Where you can just click on that one and it will add it to your background. Oh. Okay. Well, that's what you can do. With your skills, if you don't select the two or three that you want, and I say 2 or 3, it used to be 3, but now you can add more detail about your background and experience of that particular with that particular skill. This is a way you can do it. If you don't know what your skills are, this is a way to find them at this link, this URL there. And I'm going to skip ahead, and you can want to skip ahead to the next slide with this one. This is a way that you can find out what some of your skills are. Notice this one is for implementation project manager. Well, this is some of the skill set that those people bring. Those are the kinds of things that should be in your profile. Again, there is an error in one of these two. I think it's this one down at the bottom in terms of that. But so compare the different titles there. That's my mistake on that one. I noticed that today. But that'll give you a list of some of the skills that you may have. Another way to find out some of your skills is to look at some of the requirements when you go looking at job postings. Look at the things that are required or the qualifications being sought. Those are the kind of skills that you want to have for your profession. Okay, and are your skills organized for maximum impact? As I said, if you don't organize them, LinkedIn's going to choose the ones that they think are best. Okay, like this. For mine, notice this is 3 on a page. And those additional things that people have endorsed me for this, I have executive search, consulting, and talent acquisition. But if those aren't the ones, you can click on the 3 dots there at the top. And if you do that, it allows you to reorder your skills. And by doing that, all you need to do is to bring your cursor over to the 4 line to the top, hold it down and drag and drop. If I wanted professional services at the top of mine, I could drag and drop it to the top. And that's a way that you can have it, because the first 2 or 3 are what people see when you first look at your profile without clicking and seeing more. Again, I talked to somebody and they had some skills that were listed by LinkedIn, had nothing to do with their areas of expertise. So that person would not be regarded very highly about that. Okay, moving on. Optimizing your profile. Why would you want to look at other people? Well, if you're not getting the hits off of your profile, people looking at you, when they look at your skills, and that analytics section will give you an idea about that. Take a look and do a search for yourself. This is for a recruiter here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's under the people area. And again, there were when I did this search a couple of years ago, there were about 26,500 people who had recruiter in their profile. It's much higher now. I think it's up in the $30,000 range. But if you're not showing up at the first 10 screens, that's 10 thumbnail sketches on each screen, again, you're probably not going to get looked at as a recruiter. It used to be when I was very active on LinkedIn, I would show up in the first 2 pages, the first 20 first 20 thumbnail sketches. But because I'm not actively recruiting on a regular basis, I don't get found. I think I'm down about 200 on the list now in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But you could do that, but you could look at people's profiles and click one of those open. Like this one, she has recruiter, senior recruiter. She's open to work. She's got in her open to work section, recruiter, talent acquisition specialist. She's got some information, dedicated talent acquisition specialist. Again, the more times that you mention those kind of things, those are the kind of things the recruiters search for. And the algorithm for LinkedIn is what I search for. I know when I was with Oracle Corporation, they just moved from Siebel over to Oracle. We were still looking for a Siebel consultant in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I ran a posting up in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, got 75 responses. 50 of them didn't even have the word Siebel in their profile, in their LinkedIn resume or their resume. Those 50 immediately got eliminated. The 25 that had Siebel in their profile, again, or in their resume, were the ones I'd look at. If it was once, maybe somebody had used Siebel as a product, a software product, or those that may have put it 10 times or had it 10 times, maybe the kind of candidate I was looking for because they may have installed Siebel as a product. So that's just something to think about when you look at other people's profiles. And if something applies to you, don't just copy verbatim what somebody else has and paste it in your profile, because I can almost guarantee you that it's not going to all apply to you. So let's switch gears a little bit and move into the job hunting standpoint. Searches on LinkedIn. How does LinkedIn actually run a search? How about recruiters and their searches? And how about some recruiters' search results and then searching for jobs for you? Those are the kind of things that we want to take a look at. So what do recruiters really look for? The first thing that I can tell you about LinkedIn and your profile, important to have something in each section. And for your activity, how many times are you on LinkedIn every day or every week? And your ranking in searches is based on the sum of these values. The higher scores appear at the top of the list of results based on the qualifications being sought. That's a mouthful to say, but basically that's why it's important to deal with some of the things that have a complete profile. Recruiters are generally looking for, what are they looking for? The first thing that I look for as a recruiter is job titles. Those are from your headline, your open to work section, your about and employment sections, and both the present and past job titles are the things that show up. And again, having it there the most times adds that up. So job title, if you don't match that, that's probably going to be one of the factors that would not be effective. That's one of the dangers of having a resume posted in LinkedIn in your activities area, is because if it has a title that's not directly related to the title of the job that they're recruiting for, it may get eliminated. Next area that you want to look at is keywords and skills. I put keywords in and search, and we'll take a look at a profile input sheet that a recruiter used in just a second. Next thing, industries and specific companies. People want to look at your pedigree. They also want to look and see if you have experience in a specific industry. That's particularly true of healthcare. And there's some other industries which are very specific as well. Education and geographic location. I know I interviewed for a job here in Dallas as an employment manager or director, I can't remember which, and they were looking for a graduate from a top 10 business school in the United States. Well, as I mentioned, I'm a graduate of University of California at Berkeley, and depending upon whose list that you look at, that was one of the top 10. Generally speaking, people are going to look for the geographic location. You've taught recruiters that generally I don't want to drive more than 20 to 25 miles to work. So recruiters have a limit on that when we get to searches, and we'll see that in a minute. They look by geographic location, but other companies may be open to location regardless. Current and prior companies and your length of service. It used to be recruiters looked at resume, they didn't want a job hopper. Well, with today's economy and COVID, length of service is not quite as critical as it used to be. Then recruiters take a chance, and they may look at your recruiting experience. So let's take a look at a search. This is actually one that Kurt Vandemotter, this is a screen from one of his presentations a couple of years ago. And he has a license, had a license for LinkedIn Recruiter, which was a software license that LinkedIn, Microsoft used to sell for $10,000 a year for each seat. Okay. They have an input screen of 3 of these, and these are the things that you can input to. Job titles is one of them, location, skills and experience, companies, schools, year of graduation, and keywords. So those are the things that they can look for on that. And when it does a search like that, whether you can see at the top, but actually this search, they could search 700 million, I think were on in LinkedIn at the time that this was shot, and they can narrow it down to 70 within about 30 seconds. That's how quickly recruiters do it. So let's take a look at the actual search that a recruiter did. This is one for a product manager in the 7,000 candidates that showed up in that search, and they were looking for a product manager or program product manager, and could have, sorry about the internet connection, Product manager, product marketing are very similar. And competitive analysis were some of the skills that they were looking for. They were also looking for companies that happen to be in the Seattle area, like Microsoft, Amazon, and Fluke, all have headquarters up in that area. So that went through that, but also they had people that had 2,500 connections, and there were 462 actually involved in following the company and all of their press releases. And you can follow a company and engage them. Take a look at another search. This is one for in Chicago. They were looking for a project manager. Well, again, this one drew about 43,000. Notice here, open to work, open to new opportunities. There were only 83 people who had indicated that. This was done at a time when the job market was kind of tight. Not a lot of people looking for jobs. So recruiters typically going to look at these people. They're probably going to look at those 83. That's one screen. That's 8 screens, actually 9 screens of people. Probably going to look at those first. But that's a screen that typically shows up when people look at, give enough information. Notice project manager. This one is project manager. Has a little bit of information about their past experience. Okay, so that's the kind of thing that they can do. It shows up on a recruiter screen. So searching for job, how do you go about doing it? Well, you have 2 options with LinkedIn. You can just use the general search bar at the top, or you could click on the jobs tab there on the toolbar. Again, those are the 2 ways. Well, let's take a look at how you do that. Again, searching for jobs and searching for location. Again, in the searching for jobs, you could put your title that you're looking for then, or you could put some other things that I won't talk about that in a minute, and location. If you fail to put a location in, and you haven't done a search recently, it's going to default to the United States. That's what this shows. Again, somebody put in for a sales rep, and they didn't put something in for United States, and it drew back almost 200,000. That's too big a pool to look at for a recruiter. The next screen we want to look at, this was for our senior accountant. I mentioned the 25-mile limit. That's one of the default settings on most of the job boards is 25 miles. You can narrow it down now on LinkedIn to 10. They used to have a 15-mile setting, but they've eliminated that. And you can up it to 50. So if you're in Denton looking for a position in Dallas or Fort Worth, it's more than 25 miles that you can do that. So that's one of the things you can set a distance location. Another thing you could do, this one was for a general, and I did a presentation to the American Society for Quality Engineers and Quality Management. And I put quality assurance in the term. Again, I mentioned this drew too many. This was about 2,000 job, 1,900 responses to that in terms of the jobs available in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in the past week. That's a lot. Okay. Well, one of the things that we'll do, we'll pick up all the people in quality assurance. So a further refinement on this search is to add the word manager. It narrowed it from 1,900 to 174, the Dallas-Fort Worth in the last week. Okay. A little tip about that. Another one that you can do, notice I put executive assistant. I started to put it in Dallas, and drop-down menu gives you some options there. You have to watch out in entering Dallas because there's a Dallas, Georgia, and a Dallas, Oregon that will show up. Again, searching for jobs. This is one of people want to do. If you're searching for a recruiter in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, notice I put jobs in there, but you can go down to the groups section by clicking on groups right here. We'll show up the groups tab, and groups, particularly for a recruiter, have a lot of jobs. There are jobs that are listed in the groups section that do not, repeat, do not appear in LinkedIn's job board. Okay. And again, you have to do that. And another way that you can do that, there's also the one here called companies. If you do a company search, like CBRE or as a company, you go in and open up their page, and they have a tab for jobs within CBRE. And you open that up, you can also save those jobs. So anytime a new job is posted within that company, it will send you their notification about that. Let's take a look at job alerts in just a second. Okay, using the filters. This is an older screenshot of the filter. And this is some of the things that you can filter on. Again, the thing I suggest strongly when you're doing searches on LinkedIn or any job board, you want to limit your search to the past week or 3 days, because those are the more current jobs. In a lot of job categories, those jobs fill quickly and are limited or may be taken down, even though they may be still up. Some of the jobs have already been filled. Something that LinkedIn picked up from Indeed.com was a salary parameters. This is not the most precise salary survey, but it does give some indication of what salary is being paid. Again, my internet is showing to be unstable again. I'm sorry about that. But again, you can click on those and limit the number of jobs. As say for a recruiter in Dallas, at that time there were approximately 2,100. By eliminating it to last week, it drops it to 630. And by eliminating it to those over 120,000 or above, it narrows it further to about 48. But you can look by company and by industry, by location, and whether you're looking full-time, part-time, or volunteer, or temporary kinds of positions. This is how you do a create a job alert. When you're there, you see a button up here, create a job alert. This is an off position. By switching that radio button to on, gives you the option whether you want a daily notification or weekly. If you select daily, you will send an email to you for any new job posting that meets your criteria. And they usually come in between 7 and 8 in the morning. I still get ones for people that I'm working with. I know I'm working with a candidate who's looking for a teaching position here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And occasionally we get the new teacher openings that have been posted for that. Okay, wrapping up, and we want to get back to talk about some of you. What do you need to do? I mentioned some of the things. We'll complete all the sections of your profile, increases your ranking in the searches. And use the name that you normally use. Make it easy for that recruiter or hiring manager to contact you and start a conversation. Important, refresh your profile at least once a week. It may be that you reorder your skills. It may be that you change the headline a little bit, but do something to change it. I know when it used to be with resumes, people would tell recruiters would tell candidates, add a period or take a period out, add a comma or take a period out. When you do that and save it, it refreshes the resume, increases and brings it back to the top of the stack in terms of freshness. Okay. Do complete your open to work section. It gives you the chance to add additional job titles. And in your headline section, the job title, do use job titles, not generic descriptions like financial management is not a job title. Financial management is not something that recruiters search for. Okay, so that's something to think about. Do list your phone number and email on the first line of your about section. If you're hesitant about including a phone number, you can get a Google phone number, which will screen your calls for you. The experience section, do use the job titles and include some measurable results because they do increase the credibility of your experience. Keywords and skills, again, LinkedIn will select the top 2 or 3 skills to show to people when they first look at your profile. Jeff, I'm about done with.
All right, what do you want to do now?
Well, let's see if I can pull up my LinkedIn profile.
All the links Locke talked about, I put in the chat window. So with anything you're looking for, just copy those links that I've posted in the chat window for everybody.
Is that my profile showing up, Jeff?
Yep, there it is.
Great. Okay. What I'd like to do now is if somebody would like us to take a look at their profile or would like to look for a job, we'll try and do that today. I solved the gremlin, Jeff.
Good. Anybody, if you like this, here we go.
Want to look at mine, you can, or if someone else has volunteered that they got ahead of me, it's fine.
Go ahead. Give me your name.
Okay. It should be under Donald Lewis. And I know we're connected. Groover, Gruv as in Victor. So there I am at the that's me.
Okay. Look at you. Come on. My LinkedIn is being slow today, so I apologize for that. View profile. Okay. We are first degree connection, so that's great. Again, event planner, marketer, promoter, event services. Again, you want to use more of the titles, Lewis. What are you looking for? When you do a search for a job, what are the titles that you use? Those are
right.
the titles that you want to put in there.
Sure.
Because event services professional, don't know that I've ever looked at that, but what are the titles when you do job searches, make a list of the titles that show up. Because everyone is not going to be an event planner, okay?
No.
But when you search for an event planner, they come up with other titles.
I have them not only in the chat when I did my intro, but I'm working on that. I need to do that.
Okay,
Thank you for the reminder.
okay. Open to work, he's got event specialist, event coordinator, event manager, social. Let me look at one other thing up there. Okay. Okay, looks good there. The activity section, he's got some blogs that he's posted. Experience you haven't used your display, your about section. Again, let's look at his about section and see if he's got his contact information there at the bottom.
I do not.
Okay, you need to have it up there because if we're not first degree connections, I may not be able to see how to get in touch with you.
Sure.
Okay. So scrolling on down. Okay. You've been kind of independent. Well, that's okay. You've been kind of independent the last couple of years while you're doing other things.
Correct.
Okay, notice that he has two lines that come up, and what you're having to do is to click to see more. So you've got a good presentation of that under your event experience. Okay. Got a dual bachelor's degree. Okay, projects that he's worked on. That's great. He's got that there on his. Notice he has event planning and event management. Those are the two that show up of his 50 skills. But I have to look at the others and see if there are others that might be more relevant. You know, event planning, I would choose with something else, one of something else. Event planning and event management. That might be in addition. Notice he is not looking for, even though he is working as a substitute teacher, he's not right now. Okay. But it looks good, Louis, from that standpoint.
Okay.
Okay.
The only one thing I saw that I would change is in your about section, you've got a paragraph with too much information. You need to break it down
Okay.
to 3 or 4 lines maximum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cut your experience down into breaks. Let's do a quick look, Louis. I think that answers the question for you. Let's take a look at mine real quick, like.
Yep.
I do that not because I'm bragging or want you to copy mine, because it's not. Susan will try and get yours in just a minute. Here's my about section. And the only reason I mention that, notice how the formatting that I've used. There's 3 lines, 4 lines, 3.5 lines, 3 lines. Then there's some information about my engagements or projects that I've worked on. Okay. Another one, I've just listed the kind of titles that I've had. Okay. And this is for this section right in here, this recruiter, that's strictly for the computer. When it searches for recruiter, those are the words that the more times it's mentioned that it's that way. I've also got a list of specialties that does not have any commas between our career and then transition consultant. I've listed it as many times. That's again for the computer's background. Okay.
Let me just interject real quick. So the section that has starts with contract recruiter, are those all the titles that you would be looking for and you're putting it in there? So the recruiter who's doing a
Those
search,
are all titles that have applied to me in the past.
okay. And then the specialties at the bottom, are those titles that, yes, recruiters are doing a search for, and you may have had that title or looking, what is it?
Yeah. I may have had a title.
Okay.
Career and transition and recruiter and talent specialist. Talent acquisition is the newer terminology in my field of recruiting.
I just noticed there's no like commas in between, so it says
That's on purpose. That's strictly for the computer, that specialties area.
good to know.
Okay. Okay, we got another one for a search, Jeff.
Let's see here.
Yeah.
Susan Heaton,
Hello.
Hi,
you want to search for your job or take a look at your profile?
profile is fine. It's Susan R. You have to put an R in there just because there's other Susan Heatons out there.
That it? Come on, Susan. Okay, we're going to take a look at your profile. Okay. We're second degree contact, our second degree connection. So I'm going to look at her profile, her contact information, and see if she's open. But this is what a recruiter sees and why I said it's important to have that contact information in your about section or in your banner folder. Well, this is all of the information I have to try and reach out to Sue unless I go through her connections down here. So, but connections, people, when you send a connection to somebody, that's not their business. So they may not look at their connection to their in-mail request on a regular basis, even daily. Okay. So that's why it's important to have it open like that. She's not open to work. And again, that's a question for you. Some people don't want to be open to work because they're in stealth mode. They're still working for a given employer right now. But if you're looking for, and if that's the case, you may want to use the open to work, but limit it to recruiters only. Those are people that have taken out the software license from LinkedIn. Okay. Again, her about section is 3 lines. Again, does she have her contact information? But see, that's what I see. I'm a recruiter. Good written conversation, areas of impact. I like that. Notice how she's used check marks. Okay. Let's get connected, but no way to connect. How do I
Right.
connect?
I need to put my phone number and email in there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If you're looking for a job, I would say both. Okay. The featured section's got some information about what she's done. Okay. This is certifications is a way that you can do that. I know I had when I was in recruiting, there were AIRS, which was a recruiting certification group for recruiters. You could be certified as an internet recruiter and as an affirmative action recruiter as well. Okay. So there's certification like that. LinkedIn also has some tests that you can take and get certified that way. Business development consultant for 18 months. What have you been doing?
I've been consulting with the
Company,
a
what are
couple.
some of the projects you've worked on? Who are some like?
I didn't list them because some of them are local municipalities. They're
Okay.
not.
So
they don't-
municipal so say municipal governments, and you can lump them together as a group. And what kind of things that you've done? I would want to know what you've been doing rather than just drawing unemployment checks.
I also have been substitute teaching. I'm
Okay.
licensed.
Well, give some more information about what you've done. Self-employed doesn't tell me much. As business
Okay.
development call, doing what? Advising on computers? Have you worked with real estate developers, or who have you worked with? You've been at Macy's in customer experience. Okay. Again, the description under Macy's, one of the largest department stores. Yeah, people can recognize Macy's as a national retailer, department store. Scrum Master, though, okay, that's important. That identifies some of the things that you've done. It's a buzzword that people will latch onto and ask you more questions about. Okay. Managing broker, okay, so that you, as a broker with Coldwell Banker, means that you weren't just a real estate agent, you had actually got the next step up the chain in real estate. Lindenwood out of St. Louis, out of Lindenwood, Missouri, okay. Skills, product owner, and agile project management. So if that's the area that you're looking at, that's great. But are there other skills area that will be beneficial? I look at those, we come up with a list. Come on. Product owner, agile project manager, 6 Sigma green belt. Again, you can go in and rotate those periodically. That's a way to refresh your LinkedIn profile. Okay. The green belt in terms of experiencing green belt has significance for certain jobs. So what are some of the job skills for the jobs that you're looking at? Those are the skill areas that you might want to rotate up toward the top. Okay. And you do that when you open that up, there's a pencil in this area, and you can click on that, and then the 3 dots will open right up in this area, and then you can reorder skills as one of the options that you have with that. You can then hold your cursor over the 4 lines that are in this section and drag and drop. Okay. Notice she's also added detailed experience of where she's done these things, the 6 Sigma green belt, and those will show up under that listing. Okay. Susan, does that answer questions for you?
Yes, it does. However, I have one quickie question for you. When somebody reviewed this, they called me an agile careerist. And they said that since you have a tendency to seek learning and knowledge, you're going to want to connect the dots for the different roles that I had been in. Does that make any sense to you, Locke?
Well, people look for continuity. I know people ask what, about my background in recruiting and HR. Well, I've done affirmative action and that kind of thing, equal employment opportunity. I was the manager of that for a couple of years. Okay. But that was back in the mid 70s. So that experience is not really current. Can I relearn it because I've done it before? Probably yes. Okay. Kavitha,
Okay.
I think has got the next one.
Thank you.
Okay. Kavitha, what are you asking us to do for you?
Hi, would you mind? Sorry. Would you mind looking at my profile?
See if I spelled it correctly. I think I did. Okay. That's you. Again, we're second degree connections.
I just sent you the connection request.
Well, I haven't viewed that. So let's look at our profile. The reason I asked that, by being directly connected, I can look at that. But if her contact information is, okay. For some reason, my internet connection today is slow. Apologize for that.
It's the sunny weather.
Okay, know this, Kavitha, I don't have direct connection. She does have her phone number, which makes it easier. That's great. Okay. So if you're not going to open that up, let's take a look. She has not put that she's open to work. She may not be. General AI, AI, ML, machine language, ML, like something language. Okay. Product strategy and execution. I would put product strategist. Product
Okay.
implementation. You've used about 120 characters. You have 220. So open it up. Add more. I'm going to go ahead and accept her invitation, okay, which I just did. Okay. Our about section is great. I'd put your contact information on the first line. I'm Kavitha. Let's connect and put your phone number on your email address. Notice her skills that she's identified back there previously is showing up here. Okay. She went to Wharton for what is a course at Wharton that she did, which is important. Okay. She has information.
No,
I clicked on your company and my internet is unstable again.
Oh, the reason you're not able to pull up the company is we don't have a website.
Well, that's probably why.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I click on that, it's supposed to let me back in and look at you. Jeff, I'm gonna let you take over looking at people's profile and do a job search because my internet is.
all right, let me. All right. So let's see, we already looked at contact. Since we're not connected. Let's see her about section. She does have her email down here, which is great. Locke recommends you put it up as the very first line so somebody can see it right away. But as long as you have it on there, that's the important thing. So people
The
can
important
reach
thing,
out
yeah.
to A recruiter does not want to use InMail. They do not want to use LinkedIn email. They want to be able to either pick up the phone and call you or send you an email directly.
The reason,
Um,
tenant,
so, here's a job she's currently at, been there for 6 months. If any of these bullet points, you can give us some detail as far as
what were some of the results?
results, yes.
Yeah,
Number,
basically, you know, this is a filler, right? I'm currently unemployed, right? So I'm just
That's
trying
fine.
to,
That's fine.
I'm trying to do volunteer projects like for the city of LA as a product manager. And then I'm also doing AI product management course, right? And I'm also exploring AI applications as part of my course, trying to like, you know, come up with different, you know, projects and understand. So that's why I don't have any results yet. So.
okay.
Okay. I would, okay.
So here you've got results. Perfect.
No, good. That looks good. The only thing I can suggest here where you have 473M, spell out the numbers. It increases people look for big, it creates a bigger impression on people's brains if you have the numbers spelled out. 473 with all those zeros after is a lot more impressive than the 473M. We both know what the M stands for. License and certifications. Your product strategy, product road mapping. Again, you have 100 skills. Are those the 2 that you want to show up?
No.
Well, okay, open it up. When you go to open up that pencil, click on the pencil, and then it opens the 3 dots. Click on the 3 dots and it'll allow you to reorder those.
Okay.
She's got some honors and awards, which was great. Okay. Another thing I could mention while Jeff has got that on the screen, there's a groups tab there. You can join up to 50 groups, affinity groups. Think about how credit unions used to get started. They used to be a member, if you were members, lived in the city of Richardson, you could go to the Richardson City Credit Union. So a Richardson Credit Union. So a lot of the groups like airline affinity groups, if you have a rewards card for American Airlines, that's an affinity group. That's what groups are for. And there are a lot of groups. There's probably a couple 100,000 different groups. And for your field, product management, you can explore and kick that around and try and do that.
All right, well, we're going to stop there.
Okay.
If anybody wants Locke's presentation, here's where you can get it at. Just send Locke an email and he will
Send
do
me the
that.
slides and I'll be happy to send them to you.
Thank you, Locke, for looking at my profile and
You're
giving me
welcome.
some suggestions.
I
Appreciate
apologize,
them.
my computer is slow today.
Thank you.
Next week, our speaker will be Kurt Vonnemeyer. He's going to talk about LinkedIn from a recruiter's eye. He's a retained search executive at Linked Executive Search, one of the top recruiters in the country. And he'll be with us to share his comments about how he goes and how he looks for people like you. Crew FW and Career USA, we're putting on training a couple days a week. Tomorrow, the practice interview team will be meeting in person. If you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, please go join them. This is a great way to watch other people being interviewed. And then when you're ready, don't practice your interview at your first real interview. Practice your interview with the interview success team, because the nice thing is they give you feedback after the interview is over. So if you've been getting your interviews and you're not closing the deal, come find out why. And you can do that with the practice interview team. They meet in person on the first, second, third, and fifth Wednesdays. The fourth Wednesday of the month, they do it online. We did that last Wednesday. We had 45 people online watching 3 different people being interviewed. This Friday at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group at 9:30 in the morning, we will talk about open forum. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. So you've got questions about your job search, you can ask us. We can look at LinkedIn. We can talk about networking, about your resume, whatever it is you want to talk about. Bring your questions. We'll talk about those this Friday. It will be meeting in person or on Zoom. You're welcome to join the Career DFW or Career USA LinkedIn groups. You can join one or both. You do not need to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to join the Career DFW group, but I will look at your profile, and if it's not mostly complete, I'll skip you and say, you won't get included, because why are you on LinkedIn if your profile is not mostly complete? Because you want to be found if you're on LinkedIn. The session has been recorded. It will be on the Career USA YouTube channel later this afternoon. You can subscribe to the channel, and that way when we post a new video, you'll find out all about it. On the Career USA YouTube channel, it looks something like this. Click on playlist where you see that green arrow, and then instead of clicking on the video down below, pick whatever playlist you want. I put all the videos in one of 7 different playlists. And for LinkedIn, click on View Full Playlist at the very bottom where you see that red arrow, and up will come a list of the dates and topics and titles and who spoke, and you can go back and watch any video you want at your convenience. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops and you'd like to join the Career USA mailing list, just scan this QR code and send a blank email, or you can send a blank email to Career USA, the + subscribe at groups.io. You'll never be spam because I control the list. I'm the only one who controls it, and I will only put out information about our upcoming workshops. Please note, Career FW are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Locke is a volunteer. All of our speakers are volunteers. I'm a volunteer. Everything I've done over the last 15 years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. Locke, once again, thank you very, very much. And we'll hope for better internet connection next month.
At least we saw the end of the LinkedIn, the gremlin that was there the prior times, Jeff.